Hi everyone, Anthony Gordon here, and today we're going to talk about the four essential steps to retirement planning, or better yet, let's call it the four phases of retirement planning. And essentially, what we're going to do is just kind of go through what a framework looks like for retirement planning. And I know there are a lot of moving parts. There's RSPs, TFSAs, pensions, etc., etc., etc. But it's also good if you have a framework. I think frameworks are super helpful, and I think it's great for guidance on decisions that need to be made. So, what's the first phase? The first phase is the accumulation phase. And as the name suggests, this is the phase where you're starting to build up your savings, right? So, you build a financial foundation. And the most important thing here, like in all phases, but especially when you're starting out, you want to create a framework where you're doing things from the most tax efficient perspective. Because so many times when I've seen clients, and this is later on, that they've started off and they're doing great in terms of investments. However, unfortunately, they don't have the right tax efficient framework. And so what happens is, they've been paying a lot of taxes over the years, or when they go to withdraw the money, it may not be in the most tax efficient process system, right? So the one thing you want to do is look at the framework that you're doing. Now, if you're just starting out and you're making over 50,000, a good example of this is, contributing to an RSP. Why is that? Because if you contribute to an RSP, you get a deduction. In addition to that, the money that you contribute grows tax deferred, which allows your money to compound in the long. So, what's the next phase? The next phase is the growth phase, and this is where you amplify wealth in a tax advantaged manner. Essentially, what you're doing is you're growing your wealth, but you're also looking out for any huge unforeseen financial needs. And this, not that you're not looking for unforeseen financial needs, but when you're just starting out, usually you're probably young, right? You're younger at least. And so at that particular time, you may not have all the assets, you may not have all the income, um, and you may just be, getting things going, right? But usually at the growth phase, this is where you at this point sometimes have a spouse, you start to look at kids, and you start to really consider, okay, good, I'm building up some assets, but at the same time, if I have unforeseen financial needs, for example, it has something to do with a house, if I lost my job, they'll probably be devastated. And that's because at this phase, in the growth phase, you're probably taking on more responsibilities. Now, what you want to do is diversify investments. If you're, for example, using an RSP before, you want to look at TFSAs. And you may have been using a TFSA before if your income was below 50,000. But if not, and you've been contributing to RSPs and getting deductions and getting the deferral, now you absolutely want to start to look at things like the TFSA. And again, this is not a one, it's not a cookie cutter process. This is just a framework to think about. So again, in the growth phase, what you want to do is start to diversify your investment, and you want to utilize as much as you can any tax exempt growth for that investment. So what's next? Next is the preservation stage, and this is where you'd have built up enough income and you're in retirement. And of course, you're in retirement. You've seen the mountaintop. Things are going great, but you want to make sure that you preserve that accumulated wealth, and you want to make sure that the wealth that you've now earned um, and grown, that you have support for that wealth such that it will provide you with the retirement lifestyle that you want, and it's consistent and it's steady. And as always, what we're going to look for is tax efficiency. And again, a practical action here is looking at the taxes that's being paid. But specifically, want to look at the tax efficient withdrawal strategy. Here's the interesting thing about the preservation stage. For most people, when they've earned income, they've earned it usually from one, maybe two sources. Now they're in retirement and they're receiving it from all different resources. So they have different sources such as CPP, OAS, pensions, RSPs, TFSAs, non-reg, a range of different sources. And so at this point, they're trying to figure out, I know how much I want, but what's the most tax efficient way to get that? And that's why you need to implement a tax efficient withdrawal strategy. And depending on your income and depending on what's needed, you may have to make changes along the way. So again, it's not a cookie cutter type of framework. There are some, situations where it may remain the same, but you definitely want to look at this year by year. And then the last one is the transitions phase. And what that really is, you have enough for retirement, but now you're talking about estate planning. So you want to ensure efficient tax advantage transfer of wealth from you to your heirs and to your beneficiaries. A practical action here is getting an estate plan in place. We're going to bring the lawyers in. You want to direct the beneficiaries, different designations, who should get what. And, you want to think about life insurance if, potential tax issues arise, or in certain instances, life insurance is a great way to transfer wealth to your kids or your grandkids. But essentially, you want to look at the most tax efficient way that you could do that. Sometimes it may mean, structuring a situation where you bypass probate. Again, simple four phases. Hopefully, this was helpful. Again, it's the accumulation, it's the growth. And once we have growth, then we preserve that. And once we preserve it, then we look at the transition phase. Hopefully, this was helpful. Again, this is just a framework just so you get a sense of what it looks like for retirement planning and beyond. Thank you.